Here's Woj joining us. Big night for you guys. I'll be tuned in.
First thing, Colin, Mannix will wear that leather jacket all summer. It's unreal.
That's almost sad then.
Yeah, it is.
Really sad.
But he's outstanding at hosting our show, so we're keeping him.
Let's start with this. Paul George. So Brian Windhorst, who we know, reports that they're not getting interest for Kevin Love, okay? So does that make me believe that Paul George the Lakers now in the last 24 hours have a little leverage with Paul George if he doesn't go to Cleveland?
I do think the Lakers' chances have improved, Colin, over the last 24, 36 hours because my sense is that Indiana doesn't have deals that they absolutely love. I think they're hoping that the deal that they do between now and the draft, if they do a deal between now and the draft, hasn't shown up yet because I think they're going through what they have right now. I think they'd like better. Usually you always want better, but they want to try to they really need to get maximum value for Paul George. You just a player of that caliber, you just have to get every asset back you can. And right now teams are unwilling in a large part to give up young players or draft picks, multiple good draft picks for a player they all feel is almost assuredly going to be a rental and then leave for LA at the end of the season. And you mentioned Kevin Love, that is making, I think, the process for Jimmy Butler, for Paul George, more difficult for the Cavaliers because Kevin Love's value is not what it was when he came to Cleveland 3 years ago.
Been marginalized a little bit.
It has been. It has been. And the league's changed around him a little bit too. And so his while there's interest, teams would love to have him. I think Phoenix would love to have Kevin Love. They were interested in him in the past, but Phoenix isn't giving up the 4th overall pick anymore for Kevin Love. They might have done that a few years ago, but not now.
And it is interesting, though, Woj, because the history of this league, Boogie Cousins, Sacramento, Orlando, Dwight Howard, the longer you wait, as a general manager, Woj, you can lose leverage here.
Well, especially in this Paul George situation, because every period with which Indiana waits, so if they don't do it by the draft, they're going to probably lose a little bit going into free agency. And if they wait for the season to start and they want to do it during the year, well, every game he plays in Indiana is one less he's playing somewhere else, and teams are going to give up less. So I think their chance to get the best possible deal is today, but there has to kind of be a moment of truth in Indiana where they say, well, this might be the best we can do. We're going to have to swallow hard and trade him. Or they may just be a little more defiant than that and say, we think we can be creative, find a way, and hold on to him longer. Yeah. But I do think there's pretty strong motivation, Colin, within the Pacers to try to get something done before tonight's draft or during tonight's draft.
Well, Houston has some players they'd part with, and I think they have the best players, potentially Daryl Morey, but they only have 2 second-round picks. The Lakers don't have great talent, but they got 2 late first-round picks. It's really funny. Somebody asked me yesterday, would you give up the 2 pick to get Paul George? And I don't even know why. I said, no, I wouldn't.
No.
See, I wouldn't. I like Lonzo Ball that much, and here's the other thing, Woj, that matters. LA's different. It's a crowded sports market. Lonzo is commerce and good basketball. Paul George is good basketball. That's how it falls for me.
Right. And the other thing, too, is you have a player who has expressed that he wants to come play for you in free agency, who's going to be a free agent next summer. You're not giving away the number 2 overall pick or Brandon Ingram. Now, if the Lakers are willing to give up either number 2 or Brandon Ingram, they would have already called this deal into the league office.
That's right.
And so they're not. And you mentioned they've got the picks now at 26 and 27. Or I'm losing. Maybe it's 27, 28, 26, 27, right? And those are late picks. And so that might be the best they can do. And maybe at the end of the day, they do have to do that deal in Indiana, but they're not going to jump at that one. That one's going to be one you sort of know you have in the bank, and you do it later. And, Indiana's got to decide, Julius Randle, if we were to take him on, he'll be up for his rookie extension this year. And, do we want to invest $70, $80 million in him? They might, but at the same time, I think they want, for a player like Paul George, what they started out doing here, Colin, was they were looking for packages like Denver got for Carmelo Anthony, like Utah got for Deron Williams, and that's not out there for a player now who again, teams expect is going to be a rental.
Okay. Do you see the possibility of a big trade tonight? Would this be the one?
There's always the possibility of it. There is. But at the same time, they're hard to put together. And, whether it's Jimmy Butler in Chicago, as we talked about, Paul George, and others that may yet to present themselves. What I do know is there is a tremendous amount of activity. Utah is a team right now that's being very aggressive. They want to be able to put some more pieces together to show Gordon Hayward before they get to July 1. I think the Jazz are not afraid right now to reshape this roster in some ways, maybe even at the point guard position, because George Hill is a unrestricted free agent. He could leave. And so I think the Jazz are being very aggressive now to maybe make some alterations to their roster that they feel will help sell a contract extension a little bit better to Gordon Hayward, who, they're very much in a death grip fight here with Boston and Miami for him come free agency.
Adrian Wojnarowski, NBA Draft Live tonight on The Vertical, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Woj, Chris Mannix, Tom Crean, Bobby Marks. It'll be a great listen. Listen, regardless of how you think of Phil Jackson, Porzingis is a good player. Had some injury issues, not a great defender, but he's a player. And Boston has a lot of picks. I mean, a surplus of picks. At some point, they can't have all these picks. How surprised are you? I'm all for patience. I don't dip into my 401k. But at some point, Danny Ainge has his last 22 picks have accumulated in no All-Stars. Wouldn't you think they'd be a little more aggressive if Porzingis is out there? Don't they need size? Couldn't they use him?
They could, and as an organization, they've always been intrigued by him. I've been told they haven't fully engaged on that yet. A lot of teams are calling New York on Porzingis. I think he's a unique talent. I think he is a special player. I think that people who thought he took a little bit of a step back this year, I would say, listen, there were some nagging injuries this year, but environment really dictated that. That was a toxic, bad environment, as bad as there is in the league. Like in the way people used to talk about the Kings, the Knicks deserve that right now, and it's the kind of place nobody wants to send their players right now. And here you have one of the best, I would say maybe the best three players in the world under 25 years old: Karl Anthony Towns, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kristaps Porzingis, and you have him in New York. In a league where no top players want to come to New York, you have one. He wants to be there. And what Phil Jackson's doing now, even if he doesn't trade Porzingis here, there's a tremendous fracture in the relationship between them. They need this kid on their side. They need this kid leading them and taking them into through their rebuild here. And they've done such damage to this partnership with Porzingis, who wants nothing more than to stay in New York and find a way to win in New York. He just wants a functional environment, and he doesn't have that there. And I don't think it's outrageous that he's demanding it, that he's yearning for it.
Finally, Woj, it feels like Fultz to the Sixers. He's a good fit, and they want him. Lonzo to the Lakers. I absolutely believe that's true. I hear Jason Tatum, Celtics. It's funny because I said when the season ended immediately, I'm like, I think Josh Jackson's the best player. That was my takeaway of all the players I watched. I'm like,
there are many executives in the league who agree with you on that, Colin. There are many who do.
So he could fall to 4?
He could, and I think there's teams trying to be aggressive to get up there to get at him. Some teams I just don't think have the assets. But boy, there's some GMs I really respect in this league who don't really have the assets to get up to 4. But if you gave them their choice, they'd want Josh Jackson. This is a hard-playing guy, plays with an edge, tremendous competitor, and that really attracts people to him beyond his skill.
I mean, I think he's ahead of Kawhi Leonard. I mean, now Kawhi Leonard at this point is great. But if you went to Kawhi Leonard at this age, Josh Jackson, Kawhi broke into this league and offensively was a fairly limited player. Josh today, I don't know. I look at what the league's become, where you need long, athletic wing defenders. Like, that's what Cleveland needs. That's what the second-best team in the league needs. I think he's really interesting. So Adrian Wojnarowski, The Vertical, he's their editor. Tonight, 6:30 Eastern, NBA Draft Live. Good stuff. Go to your phone. Keep working it, man.
Colin, hey, thanks for having me. I always appreciate it.
You bet.